Well, I got these two guys behind me. Perk, I heard you. You said as of now you're taking Joel Embiid in this fight. What's up with that? Don't you know about your day job?
No. I said I was taking Joel Embiid's side from the other night. I didn't say I was taking him in this fight. I actually got the Celtics bouncing back and getting a win. Now, Abby, I didn't say that. I'm never really going against Marcus Smart like that now. Come on now.
Seriously, that's not smart.
Wait a minute. You know what? Wait a minute.
Literally.
I've known Perk forever. Yeah, I think it's the first time I've ever heard. I'm not going to call it fear, but there was a little bit of nervousness in Perk's voice when he said, "I ain't going against Marcus Smart."
Yeah. Look, any player, any man that's comfortable with showing up to the basketball arena in a Versace robe, I don't want
with no shirt. With no shirt, yes.
Yeah, I don't want no smoke.
This is a feud that goes back to their college days, though. Formerly the Big 12, and Marcus was at OSU, and Embiid was at Kansas. Marcus, I looked it up, did a backflip at Allen Fieldhouse. Crazy stuff. But the problem is, like you said, Perk, Marcus calling Embiid a flopper. Here's what Doc had to say about that.
All righty.
Yeah, well,
okay, well.
Said actors know actors, right? So who has the advantage in that fight?
Uncomfortable silence.
We roll with it. That's what we do.
All right.
Who's the bigger flopper? Who's the bigger embellisher? Scal.
I mean, it's totally different. Marcus does it on the defensive end, and Embiid does it on the offensive end. But you go watch. The whole thing with people is really interesting when they start talking about stats. They look at the final product. Go play by play. The Celtics got to do a better job on the defensive end, playing with their chest, playing with their hands back. I'm not saying that they fouled every single time, and you can argue that some Celtics could have got some calls too, but it wasn't like it should have been 35-35. Philadelphia is a more aggressive team. The Celtics lack defensive discipline when it comes to swiping down at the ball or leaving their feet, and Embiid took advantage of it.
Okay, I want to talk about this. You say the Celtics could have been more aggressive, maybe could have drawn some fouls, but they drove the ball 49 times, Scal.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean
more than the
Sixers. That doesn't mean you're getting fouled. Like that's
right. The only guy who got fouled was Marcus Smart twice.
That doesn't. No, driving the ball doesn't mean we don't post up, guys. We don't throw our body. Which, by the way, you shouldn't necessarily do those plays. If you drive and you see a guy that's wide open, you should do that. Like there's very few guys in the NBA that are the masters at drawing contact. We just personally don't have those guys on our team. So you can't compare what Philly's doing and us. And once again, with Embiid, you can't compare our fouls to what they're doing because he is getting fouled by us. The focus should be on the Celtics' defensive and their lack of discipline and reaching and trying to body him or trying to be physical with their hand as opposed to playing with their body.
And that's what I was going to ask you, Perk. How do you defend a guy like Joel Embiid without fouling?
Well, first of all, you got to wear him out on the other end. Put him in multiple pick and rolls so that he don't have all that energy on the offensive end, right? Attack him. Make him slide his feet. Make him exert some of that energy. But on the defensive end, you have to meet him early. You can't allow him to establish position where he want to get the ball. But you have to give credit to Doc because Doc also put him in position where it's hard to double. Putting them in that free throw line area where you can't double team them, or setting them up on the low block through cross screen actions, or just throughout the floor of the offense. So, with that being said, you have three bodies: Tristan Thompson, Daniel Tice, Robert Williams. That's a total of 18 fouls. Use them, meaning. Hey, if you got to get physical early, you got to meet them early. No easy touches, deny him. Make it hard on him. He can't just walk down and set up shop in a post-entry pass and he just able to catch it and, just with no resistance. And then, I don't want to be long-winded because I could go on forever. But the people who is guarding the passers, right? The guards on the perimeter. You got to have active hands. You can't make those post-entry passes or those passes to him be just a simple straight line drive pass. You got to help your teammates out.
Yeah, Kendrick Perkins is 100% accurate on this one. Like, everyone who wants to talk about the fouls, the end result, I'm with Perk. Their preparation going into it, the ball pressure, the way that they fought him, the way that they allowed him to stand in the paint, it was all wrong that game. I mean, now that's just what I like about these two-game series. I want to see what these guys are made of.
All right, let's hear what Doc had to say about these two guys.
Maybe.
I think Marcus is an expert at that, so he would definitely know if Joel was doing it. So that's all I would say. I think, great actors know great actors. They always have.
Oh, I love Doc's laugh. It makes me laugh. It's like Perk. It's like Perk's laugh. Thanks for laugh every time. One thing that is cool about this, though, you guys, I feel like this rivalry has gotten reheated. It's not just Marcus Smart and Joel Embiid, but the Sixers and the Celtics, they've met more times in the playoffs than any other two teams in the league. I mean, it's fun when it gets to this point, right, Scott?
I think it's really fun when Marcus Smart and the rest of the Celtics were sitting in a Philadelphia hotel, can't go anywhere.
Can't go anywhere.
For 2 days thinking about this game. I think that's really fun. And I know the NBA. I don't know if the NBA will go back to the old way of doing it. But I've always said, and Mike Gorman has been on this for about 5 years now. It's like, why do we go to a city twice? Just play 2 games in a row? I think it's a hit, not just from the travel and all those things. I think it's a hit because you get a little bit of hatred. No guys hugging, going to dinner afterwards, none of that stuff. I want to see some guys going to war out there.
All I know is I missed the road trips. I missed the hotels and the robes, as Perk was talking about last game, and the room service and all of that. But this rivalry, Perk, was there a little something extra whenever you guys played the Sixers?
I mean, they weren't good.
Well, not with us. Yeah, not with us. The Sixers wasn't good. We was running through them like a change of clothes. But look, I like this beef. And Scal is right. I want to see animosity. I'm tired of all this buddy basketball. Like, you want to see this. Like, I've been thinking about this game since we saw it on Wednesday. I couldn't wait to see this matchup. But look, I'm just happy Scal is back. The Brian Scalabrine that we know, Abby. He looks like he's energized, look like he got his rest. He looked like he want to be part of the big three on there again. I'm just happy Scal is back. I'm telling you.
We do. We are the big three.
Indirectly,
that's right.
You just called me Kyrie in the big three. I really don't fit in. I don't belong.
Alfred, you're Alfred. Can you go get me a drink? Some tea, maybe?
Whatever y'all need, man. Whatever y'all.
Yes.
This ain't really a big three.
U.S. Capitol breached, or when the Breonna Taylor charges were announced, or lack thereof charges. As part of our Men's Health Month here at NBC Sports Boston, Chris Forsberg sat down with Brad Stevens to discuss handling the impact of current events and social media.
I want to talk to you about managing the impact of social media and current events. How do the Celtics help players when they are so immediately reachable on social media with both praise and negativity?
It's an issue, and it's an issue because I think what sells is sensationalism. What sells is opinion. What sells are things that, aren't necessarily always part of the day-to-day discussion in a locker room on how your team's going to improve or how you're going to play well. And what it does is it becomes noise. I mean, it can have an impact if it's praise and it's undue and you're trying to put this cape on every day that, these guys are human. And it can impact you if it's negative, obviously. And one of the things that we try to talk about all the time is you have to be resilient. You have to be able to resist the noise. That's hard as a 44-year-old. I can't imagine being 22. And so I give all of the people that are supporting that a lot of credit. I give DeMar DeRozan and Kevin Love a lot of credit for stepping up for athletes everywhere. My biggest fear is that athletes and people in sports will get burned out quicker because of all of the praise and scrutiny that you just have to have become a everyday life and part of the immediate feedback cycle we live in.
You've told us in the past about deleting Twitter from your iPhone. Would you go so far as to tell your players to do something like that?
I think the more that you can resist the noise, the better, but I don't think you're not going to hear it. So I think what you have to do is you have to learn what's important. A great line I heard from somebody was, write down 5 things that are most important to you and then write down the 5 things that people talk about you or judge you on. And I think you'll find athlete to athlete, coach to coach, business person to business person, media member to media member, those things aren't the same. And so keeping the right things in perspective is really important, and that's what we try to talk about.
Your players aren't robots. This extends to current events. Game 4, inside the bubble, the Breonna Taylor verdict comes down. Tell me how you get your players ready for a game that night and the conversations inside the locker room.
No, I think you're human first. That always takes precedent. Like, I know every game's a huge game, every game's a big moment, but there are bigger things, obviously, and you want to make sure that you're readily available if people want to talk to you. You know, you're readily available to lend support or help find support or share what you know. Because, you know, the other thing is that we all felt like we needed to be prepared to talk about it, too. We needed to know what the ruling was, what the decision was, because we were going to be asked about it. I never worry about a game getting in the way of real life. Like, I think real life's more important. And we'll go out there and we'll play the game and we'll get everything we have. Both teams felt the same way about that verdict, and both teams were dealing with that heavy heart that night. So, you know, that is what it is. You just you prioritize the human element first.
Back here with Big Perk, and we've upgraded. We welcome in Chris Mannix from Sports Illustrated. Guys, sorry, we had Scal before, Chris. That's why I mentioned it. But Perk, how different is the impact of social media, even from the time when you came in the league, on players?
Well, the thing was, social media wasn't really there when I first came into the NBA. Like, you didn't have Twitter, you didn't have Instagram for about my first 7 or 8 years, and it took me a while to get on social media. Actually, Nate Robinson was the one that got me on social media, on Twitter, and when I finally got a Twitter, I got dunked on by Blake Griffin, so I had to hear all the noise on Twitter and actually deactivated my account. But here's the thing. You know, I understand that social media can be harsh at times, but, you know, it's that other side of things where this is what you signed up for. Like, now it's part of it. Like, going to the NBA, getting paid millions of dollars, you know, being able to play the game that you love, you're going to get criticism. It's going to be the good and the bad. KG once told me, just like you have a good game and you're ready to rush to, you know, the newspaper articles or watch your highlights on TV, when you have a bad game, man up and go do the same thing. And I know, you know, it could be a little harsh at times, and I understand where Brad is coming from, because it can affect your locker room, because it comes a period of time where you may go on social media and guys may say, hey, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown need to get others involved more, like they're taking too many shots. And then all of a sudden, Marcus Smart come into the locker room, and then it's a problem. We just witnessed that with the Atlanta Hawks, with Trae Young and John Collins. Not saying that social media had everything to do with it, but I guarantee you it had something to do with it.
Chris, I mean, even us in the media, for me, the negative stuff sticks a lot more than the good stuff.
Yeah, it does. And Perk, let's not forget, I wrote a profile on you. I combed through all your tweets early on. They were terrible early on. They were just brutal tweets. Nothing I didn't want to see. But the idea of social media, I was talking to a coach and a GM of different teams today, and they don't worry too much about the outgoing stuff. They don't focus on what a guy tweets, because there are, you know, whether it's agents or publicists, people work with players about what to tweet, what not to tweet. It's what's coming back. And a lot of players just can't resist the temptation to look at Twitter and get that immediate feedback. And that's what starts to mess with their brain. So look, it can be coming from somebody with 10 followers, 50 followers, whatever. What comes back almost invariably finds its way into the brains of players, and it affects them. And I don't think there's much that's going to change that.
Even if they're not going through and looking for it, you heard from Brad Stevens, like, these guys are going to hear it, right, Perk? It's really about who's around you and what messages they're bringing to you.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why you want to surround people with people that's going to tell you what you need to hear and not what you want to hear, and then give you the right advice. Like, for example, I'm not trying to sound Hollywood, but I do say a lot of things on Twitter, and I know they have Twitter trolls. And so what I did was to block out certain people. I only check my verified mentions from time to time. I don't even engage into the others because I don't even feel like entertaining or getting into it with somebody or saying something that could come back to bite me and I have to regret it. So it's just those teaching points that you have to learn, or just get off of social media altogether. But it's going to be there. It's not going anywhere. Social media is the way of life right now, and that's just the way it is.
We do hear about guys doing that through the playoffs when they want to focus in. Chris, is there any way that teams can regulate their players' use of social media?
No, they can't. I mean, they can offer advice, and that's pretty much it. Collectively bargained, you can't just go to a player and say you have to stay off social media. You know, the coaches and the executives I've talked to have all said largely the same things. They just offer encouragement about what to say, not to take things that are coming back all that personally. And look, just try to be as just conscious of the meaning of it as you possibly can. But no, teams can't do anything about how players operate on social media, eye breakers and things like that. But as much as anything, to narrow it down, I think it's important for Tristan Thompson. I mean, Tristan Thompson came in as the Embiid stopper, if you will, a guy with great numbers against Joel. And on Wednesday, he got cooked, just beaten pillar to post by a guy who's vying for an MVP. So for Tristan Thompson, I think it's important to come out and have a really strong defensive effort.
Yeah, Perk, the number's not good for Tristan. Embiid, when it was one-on-one, 23 points, 7 for 7 from the floor.
Well, I mean, it happens to the best of us, right? I was labeled as one of the best post defenders in the league, and I had my nights where I got cooked too. I mean, it just happened. When you have a generational talent like Joel Embiid, he's due for a big night. But look, the thing is how are they going to respond? That's the thing, is how is Tristan Thompson, Daniel Tice going to respond? And me knowing Double T, playing with him, knowing his pedigree of being a champion, being part of one of the greatest championships of all time, being down 3-1, he don't mind the little adversity. He don't mind us talking about him right now, saying he need to step it up. I'm pretty sure he's going to deliver.
Yeah, but did you FaceTime him? Did you guys go through film?
Nah, I'm going to leave him alone. He's playing tonight, Abby, and I know, sometimes, look, when you get cooked like that, you've been in a very dark place and you can't wait to step on the court. You don't want to hear nothing from anybody, including Big Perk.
I don't know if it's a good thing, though, then that he was locked inside his hotel room for the past 2 days. It could be good or bad. But the reality is, you guys, Tristan's not doing it alone. The Celtics defense this season, last game is indicative of what we've seen, and the Celtics really missing the D this season. You look at the numbers, allowing 110 points per game, giving up nearly 53% in effective field goal, and their defensive rating 17th. Those are all the worst in the Brad Stevens era. Perk, talk defense to me. Where are the issues? It started off really bad, got a little better, and now it seems they've regressed again.
Well, COVID hit, lineup shuffles. It's a different type of season, but it's no excuse. I think the Celtics sometimes relax because they look at their record and they're able to pull off games. But, one thing I know about the Celtics is it only takes for them to go have a little bit of adversity, and then all of a sudden we see that Celtic tenacity, that defensive again. And that's what they got to get back to, establishing that defensive identity. It starts with Marcus Smart. He's the head of the snake, and then it carries on to Jaylen Brown, Tristan Thompson, and so forth and so forth. But they'll get it right. I wouldn't panic. Still early in the season. They haven't been their best defensively, and guess what? They're still a top 3 seed in the Eastern Conference.
No question. Chris, it is uncharacteristic, though. Brad started with that 2 big lineup for defensive reasons, and that didn't show out, and now we're still seeing it's not there yet.
I like that word, Perk, relaxed. When did you become so diplomatic to use a word like relaxed? They are not playing with any kind of effort out there. Look, there's no effort being exhumed or exhibited on the defensive end. Come on. It's not like the schemes have changed. It's the same system they've played for the last 6-7 years under Brad Stevens. It's not like the personnel has dramatically changed, unless you really want to sit there and have the argument that they're better defensively with Enes Kanter instead of Tristan Thompson. It is just a matter of effort. We are not seeing this team provide the same effort on the defensive end of the floor as they have in years past. I'm not saying it's reason to panic and go make a trade or make a lineup change, but that's what it boils down to. There's not any kind of different scheme being played by these Boston Celtics. They're just not playing with the same defensive effort.
Can you really blame them coming off the shortest offseason in NBA history? I mean, it's got to be mentally tough to get into a game right away as well.
No, not really, Abby, because, look, they're getting into it offensively. And look, Chris, you're right. When I'm watching these clips and I'm watching the Celtics play, this is what's happening. They're relying too much on individual defense and not team defense. And I always preach boxes and elbows. Don't let guys see driving gaps. That's what I'm used to seeing the Celtics do. Help the helper. One guy goes to help. If a guy get beats off the dribble, the other guy sinks and fill in. I'm not saying that. I'm saying one guy get left on the island, a guy's getting 3 or 4 dribble moves, 3 or 4 dribbles, being able to go into his package, and then he's blowing by the guy. A guy is looking for help, and there's no help to be found. So it's just about them establishing that chemistry, that team defense again.
You still got to guard your yard, though, right, Perk?
Yeah, you still got to guard your yard. But, look, I'm telling you, I wouldn't panic.
All right,
I'm telling you, these guys, look, these young guys are feisty. We know they have the identity. They know they have the recipe to do it, and we know that they can do it. They'll pick it up. Look, we don't want them priming. We don't want them at their peak right now. We want them at their peak when they're going into the postseason. So they still have about 50-some games left to get it under control. They will.
Perk tells me not to be concerned. I won't be concerned. And let's be real, COVID is an issue. The Health Report is brought to you by South Coast Health, providing the exceptional care that you need and trust then, now, always. South Coast Health, more than medicine. The Celtics missing Jason Tatum for the 4th straight game. He is out of COVID protocols but will not play tonight. Carson Edwards also out. Romeo has missed the whole season. And then Aaron Nesmith out tonight with lower back spasms. Kemba Walker's minutes restriction has been increased by 5 minutes or so. But, Chris, we've seen this across the league. We're seeing it tonight with Seth Curry and the Sixers. Guys coming off of COVID protocols, easing back in. It may be some time before we see Jason Tatum what he was before he went out.
Yeah, probably a game, maybe 2. They have built-in ramp-ups into all this. You know, when guys are coming back from COVID, they have to effectively be doing what Jason Tatum is doing right now, practicing and getting it rolling. But he's young. He's been active. I think he'll get back into the flow very quickly. The key tonight, though, is going to be who's going to step up again with Jason Tatum out of the lineup. I think it's going to be important for the Celtics coaching staff to make sure they do what they did on Wednesday, which is stagger these Kemba Walker minutes appropriately. Make sure that there are enough minutes left in the tank for him to be out on the floor in the 4th quarter, because his scoring becomes so much more vital with Jason Tatum out of the lineup.
How do you do it, though, Perk? We saw Brad try to not put him in until much later in the 3rd quarter and then into the 4th. And Kemba said that was an issue. That long of a layoff, it was tough.
Yeah, it is tough. And it's hard on Brad also, because you're looking at your all-star starter, a guy that makes up the big 3, and you're looking at him and want to go to him. You want to put him in, but you have to adjust your lineup, and it messes up Brad's whole game plan. Brad is a guy that, to me, he coaches off a feel. And if a guy gets it going, like he said one game about Big Taco Fall, his plan was, I wanted to play Taco Fall for this amount of minutes, but he had so much of an impact on the game that I had to leave him out there on the floor. So that means to tell me is that Brad don't predetermine how he's going to go about providing minutes. He may have a substitution pattern, but that's the difference if a guy got it rolling like Kemba did in the first half and then couldn't start the 3rd quarter, just threw him all the way off.
And hopefully we do get a chance to see Rob Williams tonight as well. Guys, thank you. It's time for Storylines. I'm going to toss it over to Tom Giles and Scal.
All right, that's right. We got Storylines, Scal, and taking a look at this Celtics-Sixers rematch from the other night. And, of course, one number that just bounced off the page was the fact that the Sixers took 45 free throws and the Celtics took just 20. So we asked our friends at PointsBet for numbers, a prop here on the Celtics and Sixers free throw attempts for tonight's game. And you'll see there, it's for the Celtics, 23.5, and for the Sixers, 29.5. And all those are minus 11.15, which means you put down 11.50, you win $10. There's still some disparity there, which, by the way, I just want to mention there's disparity on the season anyways for what these teams average. But how do you think last game affects this game, specifically with the Celtics attacking the basket, maybe defending a little cleaner?
Yeah, I think PointsBet, they definitely know what they're doing, because that is exactly where I kind of figured this thing would be. Like, I didn't think it was going to be 40 like it was a couple days ago. The Celtics are going to play defense without fouling. They're going to mix their coverages up against Embiid. They're not going to have all the gambles that they did or trying to swipe down on Embiid. I think they're going to double team him from all kinds of different directions. So if you take Embiid out of the equation, let's just say he has a high number, which is 12. I would guess that the Sixers would be under. But when you play a team 2 times in a row, you have a chance to guard. And when you're talking about a post player, it's the easiest thing to make adjustments.
Welcome back. In case you didn't know, our friend here at NBC Sports Boston, Michael Hawley, has an all-new show. It's on Peacock. It's called Brother from Another. He and Michael Smith talk about the biggest sports stories going on and also everything that's going on in the world. It's awesome. You should check it out. But first, here's a clip because they talked Celtics and Sixers today.
Michael, of course, I will defer to you for my Celtics information, but I want to talk about the Sixers. And I want to talk about one Joel Embiid, okay, who for many years was known as the Process. I haven't given anybody a nickname before, but I'm going to start calling Joel Embiid, MVP candidate Joel Embiid, the Punisher, because he is punishing people right now. He is making you pay if you double team him. He is punishing people from everywhere on the court. He is making you pay for single covering him. He is parading to the line. He is evolving, going back to the Process. He is evolving, growing, and maturing into an unstoppable force. And the Celtics, as they saw the other night, ain't got nothing for him.
All right, so you say he punishes, he processes, he also provokes. Because I don't know, Marcus Smart calling him out the other night. He had 42 points against the Celtics, and he got 10 fouls on Daniel Tice and Tristan Thompson. Tristan Thompson was supposed to come to the Celtics and help slow down Embiid. It didn't work on Wednesday night. So I just want to see what happens, what develops with this rivalry. It's Sixers Celtics. That rivalry goes back to the 60s. So, look, I want to see what Joel Embiid does when the Celtics know what's coming. Because they're certainly going to try to run the offense through him.
He seems like he has all the answers right now. I hope it sticks, the Punisher. That's one of my favorite Marvel characters anyway, so let's go with that. He's outgrown the Process, now he's the Punisher.
You don't like the provocateur, you don't like that.
To hear more from Michael Smith and Michael Hawley, check out Brother from Another. It streams live on Peacock Monday through Friday at 3 o'clock. Talking about time, we are just over 12 minutes to go between the Celtics and Sixers. Jaylen Brown had a pretty good game.